is Shantica Kaseke. I'm 18 years old and I was born in Renfrew, Ontario in the Renfrew Victoria Hospital. I work at Ottawa Valley Coffee in Renfrew. There's a second location in Arnprior. I live with my mom and my two younger siblings and my stepdad. So my family life has not been the most normal thing on this entire planet, which I'm sure many people could say. Like yeah. So my mom had me at 17 years old, then had my brother when she was 19 and my sister when she was 21. So my brother and I were 2 years apart. My sister and my brother, they're like a year and a half-ish kind of thing. I've never had, up until like recently, I've never ever had like a close relationship with my sister. She's been like the polar opposite of me for so long, and my brother and I never really crossed paths for whatever reason. So my mom and my dad split up when I was like, well, they were kind of like on and off until the point where I was like 5, because whenever I was 5 he was like gone for good. It's never been an easy relationship with my dad, and I've never tried to make it like one that, like I've never wanted to have a relationship with him, and people would always be like, well, he's your only dad, like maybe you should give him a chance. And like there's so many things that dads do, but what he does is definitely not what a dad does. And I've never, ever since I was like younger, I've been like, I don't want to see him. And it's been because I saw everything and like I remember everything, but my siblings didn't. So for a long time they were like, I don't understand why you don't want us to see him, kind of thing. And my mom would like let my siblings go there, but she would only let them go there like if he was living with my grandma, which he usually is. And like at this point I don't really know where he's living, I have no idea, but he's been like back and forth between telling everybody that he's going to get deported back to Zimbabwe, and trying to get everybody to write him like reference letters saying that he's a good person and deserves to stay here, but like I've never been one to like interact with that in the slightest. My uncle, my dad's dad, he died when I was 12, I think. I had only met him once because my dad's side of the family, so my grandma, my half brother, my dad, and my uncle, they were all born in Zimbabwe, and I got to visit there when I was like 9, I think. But I don't have like much ties to like my African kind of culture. Since I was born in Renfrew, there's not much though, like I can really go to exhibit kind of things. Like my really only ties there are my grandma, my dad's mom that I still see. Growing up in this town was like, it was fine. There's nothing really, I find like as a child you're more into things because there's more things you can do, like go to the park and stuff, but like as an 18-year-old I can't necessarily just go hit the park. There was not really much to do except for go to the park, go to the splash pad, run away, play soccer on like team-bits team. But honestly, I think that was about it. It was a normal childhood, I'd say. So growing up, I went to Central, and then I got bullied for like 2 years, so I decided to switch over to Queen Elizabeth. There I met my best friend Hannah, although I really did not want to meet her. Her brother came up to me and he was like, are you new here? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, do you want to meet my sister? And I was like, no, not really. He was like, okay, I'll bring her over. So then he brought her over, and then now we're friends. We were across from our moms were across from each other in the hospital room. We're 16 hours and 2 minutes apart, and we didn't meet until grade 2. So yeah, that was super fun. Starting high school was like, it was the most terrifying thing to me ever, because I used to always think like whenever you watch movies, it's like, so I was like, hey, get out of the way, punk, and then they shove you into a locker, and I'm like, obviously that's not gonna happen to me, but it's just the thought of like, oh my gosh, there's bigger kids. Like I'm a little bit nervous. So from grade 7, I was like more like I was super duper nervous. And then grade 8, you're like the big fish in the pond kind of thing. And then you get to grade 9, and in grade 9, I did not speak. I like was always on the right side of the hallway, make sure I wasn't talking too loud because I was terrified of everyone. And then grade 10, lost half of that to COVID, so it's not like I had to interact with anybody. I pretty well just stopped doing schoolwork because they were like, it's optional, so you don't have to. So I did nothing. And then grade 11 rolled around, and half of it was like, it was kind of a mess. It wasn't the best thing on the planet, but I made it through. And then grade 12 came, and that's the most normal year I've had since grade 9. It was great. So whenever COVID first hit, I remember being in Mr. Matthews' science class, in grade 10 science class, and it was in middle of January, and somebody was talking about some virus, and everybody's like, oh my goodness, like it's never gonna get anywhere near us, like where everybody was just like, everybody was stress free. Nobody had like a care in the world, and I was just on doing, it was like chemistry bingo or something. And then all of a sudden, the semesters flipped, and so did everything else. Whenever we had to like first go online, it was probably, I would keep up with everything and I would like check in daily. But then we found out that your marks wouldn't go down. So then teachers kind of stopped assigning things, and the teachers stopped like responding to their emails. So I stopped sending emails and I stopped submitting work. So I kind of feel like during that kind of part, there was definitely a few things that like I missed out on, mostly for the fact that like going into grade 12, you're building off what you learned in grade 11, and that is part of what you learned in grade 12 or grade 10. And I didn't do anything in grade 10. I think after the first like 3 weeks, I was done. I didn't do a single thing. In grade 11, I honestly don't think it was too bad, because whenever we did the online, it was like you actually had to be like on a Google Meet. And so for me, that was probably better because I could like actually talk to somebody and they were like marking that I was doing things, so I felt definitely more productive. But for the first, like in the second half of grade 11, for like our last quadmester kind of thing, I would do the 1 hour of online that I had to do, and I would walk downtown, get a coffee, and then I'd walk back and do nothing for the rest of the day and just kind of hope for the best. So I feel like I definitely missed out on some good learning opportunities there. Going into grade 12, after having all of those weird years, to me it was almost like a breath of fresh air, because I kind of felt like, not that it was like a new start or anything, but it was just like, oh, I feel like things are kind of back on track. So it started with like the modified semesters, so 2 classes a day, and then it would alternate, like every other week you'd have 2 different classes. And that was like fine, and then they just kind of put us back into semesters, which just made me like, for me, it made the grade 12 year go by super fast, because I was so used to everything just being weird and being online for half of it. But whenever that happened, everything just seemed to fly by, and then all of a sudden I was done grade 12.
Shantica Kaseke graduated with an OSS in Mumbai and is an Ontario scholar. Shantica will be studying at Trent University in her law school for scholarship program.
So I remember the moment where I remember the exact moment whenever I found out that I was going to be this year's valedictorian, and it was on the Monday that they sent out like a form, and they were like, vote for who you'd like to be this year's valedictorian. There's only 3 like contenders, I guess. So I was just you're not allowed to campaign, so I didn't campaign, but I was just like, hey, just make sure you go vote for this year's valedictorian kind of thing. And then whenever it was the Wednesday that it like closed at 4 o'clock, and I just remember seeing the email, and all of it said was like, the subject line was like 2022 valedictorian, and then all I saw, because it was just a notification on my phone, all I saw was, thank you for putting your names forward this year, congrats to, and then it just cut off, and I was like, oh my goodness, of course. So I just kind of sat there eagerly in my bed, and I opened up Gmail, I clicked on the email, and I remember I ran downstairs and I like yelled at my mom. I was like, oh my goodness, guess what? And that was like really, really exciting for me. Like I was like beyond ecstatic. And I think that was like the middle of May that it like chose, or like not necessarily middle, more like closer to the end. And I procrastinated writing it for a long time, because I was like, what am I even supposed to write about? Because I find it was like, whenever I was valedictorian in grade 8, it was like easier for me because it wasn't just me, there was 2 of us, and we had like those 2 full years to write from. But for me, it was mostly like the grade, like just grade 9, and then half of grade 10, and then like the other half of grade 10 was online, and most of grade 11 was online. And I didn't want it to be like a COVID consumed speech, because that's like all everybody ever talks about, and I was like, that's gonna be boring, nobody's really gonna like that at all. So I just kind of made it like super like personal to everybody else kind of thing. So I threw in like some inside jokes, I threw in like as many people's names as I can mention kind of thing. And I just like, I didn't make it about COVID, I didn't make it about me, I just made it about everybody just kind of moving on. And I almost felt like more honored in a sense that I got to be this year's valedictorian, because there hasn't been like an in-person graduation in the last 2 years. So I was like, this has to be good. Like, it's got to start somewhere. And I was sitting in Mr. Nowak's class one day, and like the phone started ringing, and he told me that the newspaper wanted my speech after I was done with it. So I got to be in the paper, and that was really exciting for me. I think the biggest thing that I'll miss about high school is the fact that there was always like familiarity to me, and I knew everyone, and it wasn't like I like knew what I was doing, knew where I was going, knew everybody, knew how to get places, what I needed, and it was just like everything just kind of came to me because it was just everything. I did the same thing for so many years. But other than that, I don't think I'll miss much. I'm really excited to move on to the next chapter. So in September, which is really not far away, I am going away to Trent University. I'm studying law with a minor in sociology, and the program that I'm taking is like a dual degree with Swansea University in Wales. So I do my first 2 years at Trent, and then I do 3, 4, and 5 in Wales, like at the law school, and then I come back for my 6th year, and I finish my studies off there. So that is probably my biggest flex, is that I got into law school in high school. The most exciting part about moving away is the fact that I will just be somewhere different, somewhere that I haven't like grown up, that I haven't seen anything there, that I'll be able to like meet new people who have like more similar interests, because it's just going to be like such a more like wide range of people. But probably the most terrifying part is the fact that I like don't really go anywhere. So to move away on my own completely and have to meet new people that I don't know, that's a little like nerve-wracking to me, but I hope it'll be fine. The place I am right now is Ottawa Valley Coffee in Brantford, Ontario. They opened in March of last year, March 8th of 2021. I didn't know that this place was opening. I had no idea that there was even like renovations being done in here until I was sitting in the cafeteria, and my 2 friends came in and they were like, "Did you know there's a new coffee shop that just opened on the street?" And I was like, "No, oh my goodness, I love coffee." And they were like, "Yeah, like we should go tomorrow." So I decided to go with them, and I remember getting an iced latte with 3 cups of vanilla and regular milk. Fast forward a good year, I will not drink regular milk ever, and I do not put 3 cups of vanilla in my iced lattes anymore. I used to come here like literally every single day, and I wanted to like terrorize them so they would hire me. I worked at Tim Hortons for a year and 11 months, and I quit after that, and then I started working at Walmart in April of 2021, and then around, I think like in May, because I would do my 1 hour of online, and I would walk here, I'd get a coffee, and then I'd just walk all the way back home because I didn't have my license, because I couldn't get that because of COVID. I think it was about maybe like the end of May, they followed me, like the whole Ottawa Valley Coffee Instagram, they followed me on Instagram, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is my favorite place on earth, they just follow me on Instagram. And I went through my Instagram, and I was like, oh my goodness, like, is this coffee shop program? I was just so I just didn't want them to see anything bad, and then they messaged me, and they were like, "Hey, I hear you left Tim Hortons." And I was like, "Yes, I did." And they were like, "Are you looking for work?" And I was like, "I definitely can be." So they ended up like asking me to come in, and it wasn't so much like an interview, it was more just like a sit down with us, kind of tell us who you are, what you're about, we'll tell you what we're about kind of thing. And then they ended up hiring me, thankfully. So I've been here since August of 2021. So I'm coming up on my 1 year. It is my all-time favorite place to be ever. I come to work when I'm bored, and I don't know many people that just come to work when they're bored. Any like relationship I've made with anyone here, they like have instantly become my best friend. Like everybody that I work with here, I'm just like so comfortable with everybody, and it's not like it doesn't feel like I'm going to work. Like it just feels like I'm here to hang out with my friends. Ottawa Valley Coffee is just my favorite place on this entire planet. It's a nice little local market, so there's like so many like different things you can buy, like these pants, they're Thai pants. they come from Thailand. There's a man who's raising money to help fight sex trafficking, so you can justify buying as many pairs of Thai pants, because I have probably 6 pairs. But ever since I started working here, I just feel like all my stress is like not gone, but it's like put to a minimum, and I'm just as happy as can be with this little place. So when I started working at Tim Hortons, it was like, it's not like a huge place in there, so they only have like so many staff. So from there I kind of knew that I liked working with like a smaller group of people, because it wasn't like I had to get to know everybody, and I didn't feel like, as much as I felt so stressed working there because it was like a lot, it wasn't like I knew everybody, and like we were all like kind of pals. And then moving on to Walmart, it was just so many people, and I was like, I kind of hate this because it's just, there's so much happening at the same time. There's so many like sounds, and I get like really, really stressed out when there's too much going on. So having to meet new people and constantly, and just, if anybody's ever worked in retail, they know it's just not, it's not all sunshine. Like it's not even sunshine. There's no sunshine. Walmart doesn't have any windows, so I couldn't even see outside. But then coming here, it was like, it honestly was like just a breath of fresh air. And I think it's because I had 2 jobs that I didn't enjoy so much before, that coming here it was just like, just so much better, because you get that time to like chat with your owners, and it's not like they're like your bosses ordering you around. It's just like they're your friends. You can talk to them, you can talk to them for anything. Like I'm able to talk to them about literally anything and everything that happens in my life, and they're just so like open and accepting of anybody and everybody that it just makes anybody that comes in here just feel like just so welcome. It's amazing. It honestly is amazing. I feel that supporting local businesses, it never even occurred to me before I started working in a local business, but it's the fact that when you're working in a chain, you're to every single person there, like everybody above you, you're just a worker. Like you're hardly a person. Like they don't care about how many hours they're making you work, how terrible you end up feeling in the end of the day. You're just there like as a worker. You're there to do a job, you're there to go and then get out. And whether you like it or you don't like it, everybody just knows that you're just there for money. But whenever you start like working on a local business, it's like it's almost more intimate in a sense, that you just like, you end up like loving your job and loving the people you work with and the customers you see and the regulars that you see. And even before I started working here, coming in here and seeing the way that the owners are with like the other employees, it was just like you can tell that they actually care, and that they're like they're there to want to make their business thrive and survive, and that they have to put in a lot of work to that. So it's like completely admirable, because it's not just handed to them on a platter. Like they started this from literal dirt and they're building it up and doing a great job. So these are like our branded kind of hats kind of thing. Some of them you can like obviously tell that they're like different, like they're like different brands kind of things. Like this one is like based off Bass Pro Shop kind of thing. Every like different style hat has a different dad joke on them. I'm not like a ball cap kind of gal, but I am a fishing hat kind of gal, even though I'm terrified of fish. So the back of this one, it says, "Know any good fishing spots? Let me know." So that's the fishing hat. They all say that on the back, but all the like different styles have like different dad jokes on them. So that was pretty cool. So this is Valley Child Clothing. Are the owners of the coffee shop? So there's 2 owners, so Lisa and Josh, and they're married. And this is Lisa's like first business before she like opened the shop. So they're kids clothes. They're all made from bamboo. They're like the most like super soft material kind of thing. They're made kind of like so that kids grow into them, so that because they are like a little more expensive because of like what they're made from. So you're not like just wasting it, so it's like so that they can kind of grow into it. She makes, so they're all like kids clothes, except she does make like headbands, like not headbands, so they're like super kind of cute. I have 2 different styles of headbands, but yeah, kids clothes, they're super adorable. So this is our beer fridge full of local craft beer. There's so many different breweries in here, and he's actually out going to pick up more beer. I don't know if I've ever seen a beer fridge that's this full, but we keep all of the beer in here, and like I honestly think with as many as there is in here, I've only had my Smart Serve since May, and I think I've probably served at least one of every single kind of this beer. Like they're insane, and people come back for them because you won't find any of them in the LCBO, and we bring them all in locally, just like everything in the shop. So everything is like, all the money stays within Canada, and if it's like, so like everything in here is from the Valley, and then if not the Valley, Ontario, and if not Ontario, then Canada at least. And so all of these beers, there's some of them, I think there's like 2 or 3 that you might find in the LCBO, but the rest of them, you won't find them. You'll either get them straight from like the brewing place itself, or you can find them here. Okay, so these candles are made by a girl, I'm pretty sure her name is Anna. She's only 15 years old in Ottawa. She makes like all these really, really cute candles out of like beeswax. She started her like company whenever she was like, I think like 12 or 13. She was fairly young. So we sell these here too, and they're like, she is an incredibly talented young lady. These cards are made by a 15-year-old girl. Her name is Ella Tenemer, and she works here, like kind of like part-time. Yeah, she's only 15. She started her business, like, I'm not entirely sure when she started her business, but she started selling her cards here, which is like I'm incredibly thankful for. They're the only cards I buy now because I love to support local, and also just because she's so young and has like that get up and go kind of thing, just where she's like super, like she's super, like she was always focusing on her work kind of thing. She's a very, very sweet lady, and I enjoy like working with her. We went to the same school, but I'm 2 years older than her, although she does look much older than me. But you can find her cards here, or you can find her on Instagram, and her username is in my element, and she also recently opened where she's able to sell her cards on Etsy. So if you're looking to get like a custom made card, just shoot her a message and she will be more than willing to do that for you. So every morning when I wake up, I journal. Sometimes it's always like different. Well, it's not always different, but sometimes it honestly depends on like what kind of mood I wake up in. So like if I wake up in the morning and I'm particularly kind of feeling down for some reason, then I will like journal some things that I've done that make me proud of myself, because I always find that nobody else is going to give me the answer that I need. It's always going to be me that does that. So every morning whenever I like get up and I'm just kind of like journaling, I just like do it to either get my thoughts down, maybe some goals, just something that's going to kind of push me like to keep going throughout the day. And of course there's going to be days where I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, I don't want to do anything today. But I found that like recently in the past few months, whenever I've started like diving a little bit deeper into like self-love and self-acceptance, I've been able to just kind of find like the little small things that I love doing, like even if it's just going out for a walk, or maybe it's just my cucumber lemon water because that just makes me really excited, or maybe it's going to work, whatever it is, like it's just something. I always choose one thing at the end of like my journaling. Like I always choose one thing that I'm like looking forward to for that one day, so that whenever I do look back at my journal, I'm like, you know what, that was a good day kind of thing. So I am very grateful for like the last year that I've had, because I've been able to like learn so many different things. Like it's been a really, really busy year, but it's been like the most eye-opening and kind of thing, and like I've learned so many different things like about myself, about other people. And like the last year that I had like at school, like my whole grade 12 year, like I got to be captain of the media team, I got to be valedictorian, I got my like speech in the paper, I got to introduce a like ex-NHL player like for like a mental health forum that was held by OFSA. So for me, like that was like I didn't in like kind of like the moment, like I didn't think about it to be something like super awesome, but I always find that I'm like that, like in the moment I'm just kind of like, oh, like this is cool, but then afterwards I'm like, oh my goodness, like that is super duper cool. Like from here, like from July 2022, from like July 2021, like I was offered a job. I've gotten into like law school. Like it's just, I'm just grateful for everything, the way that things have gone for me in the past little bit, because I've been able to do so many amazing things with so many different people like supporting me, and for me it just makes me like really happy. So in the past few, it was in April, I got to do an interview with my FM. So they emailed one of my teachers, like, and they were like, hey, we're doing this thing for National Leaders Day. We're wondering if you know any people in the school who would be open to talking to us. So my teacher, he gave them my name, and I was incredibly thankful. Going into that interview, I really didn't know what I was going to expect kind of thing until I got there, and he like gave me a sheet, and he was like, these are like the questions I'm gonna ask you kind of thing. Like, can you tell me, or can you just like give me like an answer to those kind of thing? And that was really, really exciting for me. One, because I had never been able, like I'd never ever done something like that before, and I never thought that I would be on like local news for like a little interview kind of thing. And even after that, I was like, I didn't expect people to like, not that I didn't expect people to hear it, but like I didn't expect anybody to like talk to me about it. So I was in pressure one day, and somebody was like, you did such a great job on the radio, and I was like, oh, thanks. Like it just caught me off guard. And then another time I was like going through the McDonald's drive-thru, and the same thing happened. I was like, oh my goodness, like thank you. That was super awesome for me. And then also whenever I got, like after they had posted about that I was going to be the class of 2022 valedictorian, I went to the McDonald's drive-thru, I got the congrats on being valedictorian, and then going like into other stores, there's just like people that are like coming up to me, and I'm like, oh my know kind of thing. Like it just caught me off guard, but it was really, really, like it was just so awesome. I was just like, oh my goodness, like this is really, really nice. And then at graduation, I won the principal's award, and I didn't know that it was me until the very, 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 very end. Because of course they like, the principal tells, not like tells a story, but like wrote the speech kind of in a way that you don't reveal who it is until like the very, very end. So I'm just kind of like listening along, but it's like the very last word of the night. I'm getting very tired, like my bedtime is 9 o'clock, like I'd like to be asleep. And then she started kind of saying things that were like applicable to me, but not only me, like other people. So then they were like, she was like, yeah, like the student was here with their siblings. I'm like, oh, I have siblings, but who doesn't have siblings? And then she was like, our athletic banquet MC, and I did that, but I had I had my partner Eric, and then she said she, and then I was like, wait a second, and then I heard, and this, you're tonight's valedictorian, and I was like, hold on a second, that's me? And I was super duper surprised for a second. I literally had no idea until like the very, like it was the last sentence that she said that finally like got me to be like, oh my goodness, wow, that is actually me kind of thing. In the last 5 years, I find that I've grown to be more like open about my personal life, especially. I've been more like I honestly, I find myself like a more like well-rounded and like happier person. And for like the years like previous, I was always just so fixated on like bad things. I was always fixated on like being sad. I was fixated on the dumb stuff that my dad was doing and just thinking like, oh my goodness, like things are never ever gonna get better. Until I got to the point where I was just like, you know what, like things are gonna be okay. Like you're doing an exceptional job. It's like you're doing your own thing, you're on your own path, and you did that by yourself. Like you didn't have somebody in your ear being like, do this, do this, do this. Like you found your own groove on your own, and like you did all the things that you wanted to do or started to accomplish. So like if my 13-year-old self looked at me, like saw me now, I honestly think my 13-year-old self would be like, oh my goodness, girl, like you're doing, oh my goodness, like you know what, you're right, like I should be a little bit happier, like things are gonna go great. I think the thing that probably inspires me most is the idea that things aren't going to be the same forever. I, for a really long time, was like, oh my gosh, like everything's so boring. And then I like kind of just sat there one day and I really thought to myself, and I was like, you know what, like time isn't running out, but like technically, like I'm literally not getting any younger. Like everything is always constantly moving, like time is always going. And I was like, I just kind of like was like, what is the point of wasting my time being sad over this or being sad over this, whenever like there's going to be so many things that happen in the future, whether they're good or bad, but they're all going to be experiences and things that you can learn from. And I honestly think that just makes me so excited just to like move on to like the next chapter, because nothing's going to be the same, everything's going to keep changing. One thing I was told, it was in grade 8 by my grade 8 teacher, and it stuck with me for life. So I used to have my dad is like not in the picture at all, and in grade 8 it was like not the worst it's ever been, but there was like a lot happening between me having to go like talk to different people and him like having like terrible actions kind of thing. And my teacher told me that you can always love someone, but you never ever have to like them. And that has stuck with me forever, because I can apply that to so many different things, and it doesn't make me feel like a terrible person, or it doesn't make me feel like more or less a terrible daughter for not liking the way my dad is, or like the way that he behaves. So that's always just, since grade 8, it stuck with me. I was just kind of something that just kind of puts my mind at ease a little bit. It makes me, as much as selfish as it sounds, it makes me feel a little bit better. If I were to offer my younger self any piece of advice, it would be to just take it slow and like take my time doing anything, because in like the recent, like the most, I've been really thinking about like life a lot, and in my head it's been like everything that you're doing is technically in the past. Like you're never really living in the moment. So like I just in like the last bit, I've just been really fixated on not like stressing about like the super small things, because in retrospect that will never, like it's never gonna matter again, and I probably won't even, like I'll genuinely forget about it, and then I'm just gonna be like, oh my goodness, like why did I stress over that? So like for my younger self, like I spent a lot of time like worrying about so many things, like what people think of me, like the classics really, but I really never ever took the time to just kind of like enjoy what I had going for me at that time. So now that I'm able to like recognize that and do that, I just wish that I didn't spend all of that time literally doing the opposite and just dwelling on like sadness all the time. Okay, in 10 years from now, I'm fighting for kids. I have so many. Every time I go to bed, I'm like, oh my goodness, like I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And in 10 years, I always think to myself, I'm like, I want to be able to go to bed at night knowing that like I'm helping somebody. And for me, whenever I was younger and I had so many problems like with my dad, it was almost like I almost felt like defenseless, because it's like I'm too young to be able to say anything. And then whenever I was like getting older and they were like allowing me to say something, I had to do it through a children's lawyer, and I had to write everything out, like what I wanted her to say and how I felt. But I just want to be able to help the people that can't do it themselves, because I just think that it's so important. Because I just remember being 14 years old and finally having like the first time where I can be like, listen, this is what I want, and having myself listen to. But all the years before that, when I just felt like I honestly just felt defenseless, because I couldn't do anything, but I was being forced to do all these things that I didn't want to, and I couldn't help it because I was so young. So like my goal in life is to be a children's lawyer to help fight for the kids who really need it, because there's a lot, and there will always be, as sad as it is, there will always be troubled kids. There will always be people that need help, and I need to like, just for me to like feel, I don't know, I just need to be able to help. I just need to be able to help someone. So in the coming years of my life, I would like to own my own house with a big porch. I am the #1 porch supporter in this entire planet. I love a good porch. I love the hammocks. I love everything you can design it with. I just want to be able to have a house with a porch. I really want to own a Dalmatian, because that's my favorite kind of dog. I know, I was just talking about this today actually, that whenever I'm like old enough and I'm like financially stable and like stuff, I will be having 3 kids, and ideally I would like them to be 2 boys and 1 girl, because I feel like I'm a boy mom. I don't know why, but I just feel like that's in like the past for me. I would really love to accomplish law school and have that all out of the way and done with, and be super like secure in even like the path I choose, even if it doesn't end up being like exactly what I'm thinking of right now. I still like to be able to be successful in that. I really have always wanted to travel. I don't have any one place that I would like to travel more than another. I am the type of person that I would just do it like super last minute. Just be like, oh my goodness, you know what? I want to go here. And I honestly, like, you could ask me one day and be like, I really want to go to BC, and then the next day I just be like, I want to go to Italy. Like, there's no rhyme or rhythm. So to travel, to have a house with a porch, a Dalmatian, 3 kids, and accomplish law school, if that's still what I choose. I think the most important thing that like I'm looking forward to is being older and then kind of looking back and being like, yeah, I did that. Because I think sometimes that I've done, or I've had to go through some things that aren't really the most normal. And for me, like, stereotypically, I've beaten a few odds, especially like typically with kids who have who have younger parents. Like, whenever they are much younger, everybody's kind of like, oh my goodness, like those kids are gonna turn out terrible. They're gonna be like pregnant. They're gonna do the same thing. They're gonna get into drugs, kind of thing. I feel like I've really beat those odds. And for me, I really just want to be able to like be like in the future, I would love to be able to look back and be like, hey, you know what? I did that. You know what? That person was wrong. I just want to be like, I want to be just be able to be so comfortable in myself and what I'm doing with my life, that anything that like had ever happened before just won't even matter anymore.